Okay, so on the back of an initial video podcast series we did a couple of weeks ago on general well-being, we had some feedback saying they liked it, so we thought we'd go and do it again. And this one's a slightly interesting, very interesting topic. Before we dive into the details, a bit of introduction. My name's Simon Thorpe. I'm the MD of the Expressions Partnership. We are change behaviour specialists, and we help individuals, teams, and organisations improve performance through changing behaviour. In a nutshell, that's what we do. Ronaldo.
My name is Ronaldo Lawrence. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm also an Adobe educational leader. I'm an educator, and my job is to try to help people understand the digital space.
Excellent, thank you. So again, back to history. You and I have known each other for over 20 years. We've worked together in the leisure industry. We have become friends since that date. We hadn't really contacted each other for a number of years, but we rekindled that about a year or so ago.
Yep.
For basketball. And we share similar examples and conflicting views, which is also healthy. And today we're talking about probably one of the most historical, evil, nasty things that exist in our world, and that is racism, quality, equality, and diversity and inclusion. This could be literally a year and a half conversation, but we haven't got a year and a half to have this conversation. Yep. Came about, really, didn't it, on the back of the atrocities in America in the last week. And you put something out on Facebook, a real raw, heartfelt message, as you do regularly, but this one was really focused on how you felt as an American, a Black American living in the UK, and your feelings towards that situation. So I'm going to throw it over to you to start with and tell me what you think.
Well, the post that I put out was a post, as you said, it was from the heart, but it was a post that I felt needed to be said. I have a lot of relatives, I have a lot of young Black relatives coming up, and it's crazy because I don't know from day to day whether they're going to be living tomorrow with the way that things are in the States. And I don't think that we have a system with who's leading the country now that's going to help the situation at all.
Absolutely.
I think we're really in a situation now that it's quite different, and it's quite, I won't say it's new because it's never been new, but what it is quite overt in terms of from when Mr. Obama was in. It's like almost going backwards. And I just want to say to you, I if anybody doesn't agree with me, that's your own privilege. If you want to not follow me, I'm happy with that. But I'm going to be raw and voice my opinion. I'm a human being. I'm a grown man, so I say what I feel like saying when I want to say it.
Absolutely, and I think that's the importance of this conversation. And I say this to you off air, but I'll say it to you for the benefit of air as well. I feel confident in me and what I do, and I feel confident in my view. This is only a view that I have. I can base it with scientific fact in some areas, but not in others. You have seen life different to what I've seen. I've been brought up in the UK all my life. You have been brought up in America, and you've also lived over here. I've traveled quite a bit, and I've seen various things. But I'm slightly nervous, I'll be honest, about this conversation, because people will have their views and opinions. And I'm the same as you. If people don't like what I say and they want to not follow me, or that's perfectly their choice. But we're going to have this raw conversation because something that you and I think share a very, very similar view on. But we come from different perspectives.
Yep.
As.
So I'm old enough to have lived through the time where I remember the colored toilets. I remember my dad couldn't go in a store. I just vaguely remember a lot of. I remember the colored water fountains.
Really.
I also remember my uncle died in Vietnam, giving his life up for the country, and then my other uncle who's in the army, at some point in time couldn't even walk in the store. So I remember that, and I remember looking at my dad, wondering why he acted the way he did towards some things, and it was only till later on that I actually remembered, and I actually now know why he was the way he was, because he was trying to preserve his life.
Right. And you growing up as a child in those times, what did you witness personally, let's say at school or in youth groups or playing on the street or whatever? What did you witness yourself?
Well, you see, I have been blessed because I've not, I've dealt with racism, but I've not dealt with to a point where, because throughout my life, I have been fortunate enough to, with the band, with the saxophone, with the
Okay.
basketball,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. What has happened is I was always in the limelight. So I was always one of the ones who were doing something extremely positive with themselves. And so I was sort of not sheltered away from, but I didn't get it the way a lot of my friends probably got it because of who I was and what I was doing.
Okay.
But I wasn't averse to what was happening in the community and what I was seeing. But I think my grandparents actually went through it. And what's really interesting, man, is that my grandfather used to talk to me a lot about history. My grandfather's, I think my grandfather's grandfather was one of the first black men in the Senate in South Carolina.
Is
And
that right?
he owned, my family's from royalty, from Africa, from Sierra Leone,
Oh,
absolutely royalty.
didn't know that.
And yeah, and my um, grandfather was given land, and I mean acres and acres and acres of land from the so-called slave master. And so I sort of, I've gotten a lot of stories, but me personally, I won't say I was sheltered because that's a lie. I wasn't sheltered. Every day that I walk, I walked in America, you just never know. But I never really thought about it like that.
Sure.
And I always sort of thought that my life was my life and I lived it the way that I wanted to live. And when things happen, they would come about and I would deal with it. But we're living in some real different times now, some real different times.
Yeah. I mean, to say that we shouldn't talk about this is not the right thing, because if we don't talk about this, the atrocities of last week will flare up as they have done the last few days, and there's riots and
Not only, not only last week that it flared up over the last 400 plus years.
well, exactly, and it's my point. So if we don't talk about it now, can we change the world? Probably not. But can we talk about this stuff openly as two human beings about the same situation? Probably can. If we don't talk about it, the thing is, it'll happen again in a day or a week or a month's time, and the same thing will happen. It'll be cyclical behavior. And I'm not powerful enough individually, nor are you, sadly, individually, to do anything hugely about it. But if we just get one person to consider a different viewpoint, to think of the actions they're taking, that's got to be worth our while and their while. And I'm sure people watching this or listening to this will have their own views and opinions. I'm sure people will feel comfortable in commenting on their views and opinions, and come one, come all, as far as I say. Okay, look, listen, my history. Okay, so I've said before, I was born in London, in the East End of London. I moved up north and I moved back down to London when I was a relatively young age, so didn't really experience anything apart from life and as a 5-6-year-old would do. But when I went to Wembley, I was the only white English boy in my class growing up. And for me, that just felt normal. And I've said to you before, and I'll say it to you again today, I learned more about life outside the classroom than I did in the lessons inside the classroom.
Most people do.
Say again?
Most people do.
Absolutely. But I feel quite privileged to have an enriched exposure to different colors, creeds, religions, abilities. I spent time with people's families. We hung out outside of school and we saw nothing different. We were just friends. And for me, that was amazing. But here's the weird thing. I moved back up north because my parents separated and divorced. We had to go somewhere that was cheaper and somewhere we knew. So my mum took us up to Grimsby. So a completely different view to London. And there was one black kid in the whole school. There were 2 or 3 Asians, but there was one black kid in the whole school. And the amount of racism I was exposed to and witnessed, and I was appalled and shocked. And I thought, what have I come back into? Is it some sort of time warp? Because it's just the indifference, and people don't seem to handle difference in a positive way. I'm saying people. some people. Not everybody, of course, but some people don't handle difference in a positive way. And what it comes down to, and there's obviously, there's sociology, there's psychology behind this. And what I want to say now never, ever justifies any ill action whatsoever. But let's understand why people do this. And it's not forgivable, nor is it okay. It's called tribalism. Okay, let's put it into a real simple terms. If I follow a band and you follow that band, we're part of the same tribe, because we're fans of a band, and we'll go to gigs and we'll sing songs together, we'll dance together and so on. We belong to a following. And that, for human motivation, is one of the most important things. We want to belong to something. The same could be said for football fans. I mean, I don't follow football, it's a wrong shaped ball for my liking, but you got football, but then you got hooliganism, which is still a tribe. And once you belong to something, you feel like, I belong. And that can be done for good. It can be done good for some religions. It can be done good for volunteer groups, for support groups, for helping people. But also it can be used for negative stuff. Racial hatred, religious hatred, any kind of following that doesn't help, hooliganism, vandalism. It's not good. And there's chemicals in the brain that get released when we are with people who we like and we feel that we're in the in-group with. And that's probably some of the science, but it's never right. So the thing is, because it's science doesn't mean you can't change it, because we can change it. Neuroplasticity says our brains can change all the time, but it's what we're brought up to believe. You and I were not brought up with any belief system when we were born. We were brought up with a belief system from the exposure to our families. And thankfully, I was brought up with a family who had, let's say, Christian values, that everyone was equal. And I had the pleasure of that childhood. But some people haven't had the pleasure of that childhood. And therefore, their belief engine is cogged and clogged with, we don't like these people, they don't like us, we don't like that person, and so on. But the good thing about it is, and you said at the beginning, you're an educator. I'm a behavior change specialist. What we do in our day-to-day world is we help people challenge those beliefs. We help educate people and say, you now have a choice. Your choice is, do you continue that belief system, or do you challenge it and find a different or an alternative belief system?
I think the basis of everything starts with human decency. I think that's the starting point. Recognizing that I am a human being. I think that's where everything starts.
Absolutely.
I think where we sort of go off the shelf is, and if we are very brutally honest about it, I've seen little kids play together like there's no tomorrow, regardless of the color of their skin. It is only when they get older then they see this black-white thing. And a lot of it is taught. Unfortunately, a lot of it is taught. But I mean, my personal view is I have been lucky enough that although my grandmother, who actually went through the back end of slavery, well, the other black end of slavery, actually used to always say to me that it doesn't matter the color of your skin, it matters about your character. It matters about your character. Yeah. She drummed that into me forever. And so I had my sort of views about different people growing up. Mm-hmm. But it never was a view where it would stop me from being nasty to someone or, really disliking someone. I dislike what you did, but I don't know you. Yeah. I don't know your environment. I don't know what you came up like. I don't know. But what we're going through now is pure hatred.
Sure.
Pure hatred.
Absolutely.
It's just unequivocal pure hatred.
Yeah.
And because of the color of another man's skin. And what we also... Sorry
to interrupt you. We now have retaliation based on hatred, because behavior breeds behavior, right?
Well, I'm not sure whether it's, you can say retaliation, but I think is if you've been oppressed so long and you've got no other way to get your viewpoint out there, as Mr. King, Martin Luther King said, then you will riot.
Yeah.
If you're not listened to on a consistent basis, what does a baby do when he or she is a baby and they don't listen to them? They cry, and if you don't go to them, they cry continually. and you get sick of the same thing happening. And I think the voice, and not just of Black people, of poor whites, I think the voice have been not heard for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And I think what has happened now, man, is that people are beginning to realize that that person is not a savior. You know, the if you look at what's going on now, and if you actually do some reading, and not, if you get out of your feelings, first
Yeah.
of all,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
out of your
Yeah.
feelings, get out of your
Yeah.
feelings and get some facts.
No facts, yeah.
America's worse off now than it has been since Mr. Obama left. And one of the things that Mr. Obama did, again, get out of your feelings. Get out of your feelings. One of the things Mr. Obama did was he tried to bring about unity. Whereas I think what's going now, there's no trying to bring about any type of unity. But what I am seeing now from a lot of Americans, regardless of the color, is people are finally beginning to realize that this is not right. You know, this is not right. It's not, unfortunately, it took so many deaths for people to begin to realize it.
Absolutely. Horrific.
And any death is a sad thing.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder now, because I have my little niece and my little nephews, man, I say little, they're like 30, 35. But they're vocal. They're vocal, you know, and they go out and somebody stop them. They want to know why you stopped me, you know, and there's no telling what might happen to them just because they just might want to know what happened to them. And that's the state I think America's in now. And when I'm at home, man, even here, I hate driving at night. I hate driving at night because I don't trust cops enough for me to, I just don't. I've had just a few incidents here. I've had a few incidents in the States where I'm just driving. You know, I was driving with my little daughter. I was dropping my son off, you know, and I just tend to try to not do it, man. And for somebody to have to live like that,
yeah,
it is not right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not right.
There's that inbuilt system based on your experience, and it's the brain's way of saying, look, we want to protect you. You shouldn't have to go through this. So to protect yourself, maybe don't go driving at night, which is fundamentally taking away your freedom of choice and liberty because you don't feel comfortable. Even today, now, can I press you on this? And if you don't want to answer, you obviously can say no. When was the situation when you were stopped driving at night? How many years ago was that? And I'll ask you for obviously
here are the States.
Sorry, in the UK.
Oh, in the UK. Well, I was stopped twice, really, in the UK, and both times when I confronted the officer as to why they stopped me. One time, the first thing he said to me was that, "Oh, we just had some people robbed a store," and I was like, "Okay." And so what does that got to do with me?
Yeah, exactly.
Second time, I was coming along with my daughter coming back into Woking, and then I was stopped. And the gentleman asked me also, asked him what was the problem. He said, well, first of all, we think we had a car like this that was stolen, but also your tire doesn't look like it has the right amount of air pressure. And I said to him, sir, I just bought this tire yesterday. And then he babbled on something, and then he just left. You know, so those kind of things they don't give you confidence in people.
No. And again, roughly how long ago was that?
Oh, this was about 20 years ago.
Okay, so here's the point. This is the point. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's never right or wrong. What I'm saying is, even 20 years ago, that still resonates in your mind and affects how you behave, because you think, well, I don't like driving at night because I don't trust people because of the instances that you had. So it's raw.
You're talking about my life.
Yeah, exactly.
About my life.
You know what I mean? Yeah, 100%. I get it. I get it because I can get it. I can't get it because I haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
But I get it from you and other people, other friends of mine of different tones of skin color and so on. I get it, but I'm never going to get it.
No, you're not.
I'm not. Much as I want to, I'm never going to get it because I don't experience it.
Yeah. It's very similar to now, and I say similar, it's not similar, but is that Michael Gove is trying to tell me that it's safe to go back into schools. Now, if he would come and sit with me in the classroom, I'd be happy to go back with him and sit in the classroom with the kids in there. I'd be happy to do it. but you can't screw up a government so publicly. And then, or education, this is how I feel now, my opinions.
Sure.
So in education, you can't screw it up so much, and then all of a sudden, then you're going to tell me something that you think is deemed right, and you've been, in my opinion, deemed to be so wrong about so many things when it comes to education. So you have to do what you think is best for you and what's best for your family. And you have to try to make the right judgments.
Mm.
And again, you're not talking about, just something. You're talking about life and death.
Yeah, you are.
About
yeah. And again, a factual. There's more medical and scientific facts coming out about the COVID-19, which we won't go into in a huge amount of time now because we'll be here for months. But it's factual versus media hype, and we know that's a massive conversation that we'll probably pick up another time, I'm sure. But it's this whole thing about feeling okay. So I've got a couple of questions for you. I've been thinking about this for sort of 24 hours.
Sure.
If you and I today, if we were allowed to, because of distancing, we're allowed to go into a bar in Woking.
Yeah.
Now, you said to me the other day that they would notice you. Well, they will notice you because you're 6 foot something and you're huge, okay? And you're a big guy. Now, you were saying to me they'd probably notice you because of the colour of your skin.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you believe from your experience, because again, I can only say what I've experienced, I'm not going to experience. So if you and I went into a bar for a drink together, what do you think it would still be? You will still be noticeable because of the color of your skin, let alone your height and your size.
Yep.
Really?
Yes, without a doubt.
And how do you feel in those situations?
Well, I'm fine with it. I have no doubt. I'm fine with who I am. I'm very confident with who I am. I'm very confident with what I've done, and I'm very confident within me as a man. But I just think that sometimes people tend to say things or act a certain way around you, and I don't mean necessarily negatively. But I mean, people just, it's very different. And anybody who is not of color and try to tell me that it's not that way, well, I beg to differ, because you have no ground to give me a conversation about.
Exactly right.
None.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
Because I won't. Now, interesting you say that, and I 100% agree with what you just said there, because I'm a certain shade and you're a certain shade. We are different fundamentally in the color of our skin. I think we're very similar in our souls and our hearts and our minds and so on, but that's a different conversation. Woking is quite an interesting place. We're quite a cosmopolitan, multiracial, different community of people in this area.
I love Woking.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I mean, there's two things. So I do a customer care training program, and a lot of customer care focus on the external customer, which is fine, because I did it with you guys many years ago in the leisure days. But we've got to look at internal customers. So how we treat each other as colleagues. Because if we want external customers to be great and come back and pay our wages, we've got to treat each other well and be good, right? So what I normally do is get a classroom of people, and especially in London and the Southeast, I'll say, guys, look around the room. Look at the different colors, shapes, sizes, ages, genders, experiences, ethnicities, cultural values. Look at this. This is a rich tapestry for learning. You have got an amazing opportunity to tap into people who you work with, who may have come from Eastern Bloc countries, or from America, or from Africa, or from anywhere in the world. You can really tap into this. And here's my point. I was doing a sales program in Europe about a year ago this month. And we was a car company in Woking, and the car company, majority of them are Asian drivers. Yeah, great. It was this time of the year. In fact, I remember this time of year. And the guys came back. I'm chatting away with the guy. I'm talking about chocolate I bought in Amsterdam. And he said, I can't have it. It's Ramadan. I said, look, excuse my ignorance. What actually is Ramadan? I don't know. And he then proceeded to tell me what it was and blew me away. I said, do you know what, my friend? Thank you for educating me. I didn't just get a lift home from Heathrow Airport. I got a lesson in life. And you've opened my eyes. I had no preconceived ideas. I just didn't know what it was about. Now, you could say that's your own fault for not finding out, maybe, but I haven't been exposed to it. But I tell you what, I've told so many people that Ramadan is not about a particular religious thing. It's about celebrating that they have food. And so between the hours of sunset to sunrise, they cook food for themselves, their friends, their family, and the community, and they share it out. Now that is kindness. Now that is human kindness. So don't tell me Muslims or people of a certain faith. There's always extremes of every single belief system, but the majority of people are good, honest, working, loving people. It's the small minority. And the only way, and this is my view, and it's only my view, right? You can disagree, even agree, of course you can. The only way we're ever going to make a difference to this situation is by minimizing it and reducing it and reducing it and reducing it. Because only when it gets followership and it gains momentum, it gets tribal and people start these movements. Now, I know for generations and for years, far longer than I've been on this planet, people have been trying to go and do that with some success, some limited success, some great success. But we've got to start saying and keep saying, look, that's not right. Why are you saying this? Why are you doing this? What's the belief behind this? What are you trying to achieve? Because once people start becoming the minority, majority rules. And what you were saying earlier about America right now, you know more about America. I mean, I've studied in America, lived in America, worked in America, holidayed in America, but you've lived there and grown up there. So you are much more qualified than I am to talk about this. And you've got family and friends back there now, witnessing what's happening right now.
But I've also been Black in America.
Well, yeah, exactly. So you've experienced things, right? But what I'm saying is right now, having watched that documentary that you referred to me, 13th.
13.
Wow. I mean, you know, hey, if anyone watching this who's not watched that documentary, 13th on Netflix, thoroughly recommend you have a view at it.
Yeah, if there's anybody who, and I'll say anybody can disagree, whatever, but if there's anybody who want to know about, you know, what I'm talking about, go have a look at 13 on Netflix. And I think once you have a look at that, then come back to me with a different perspective, you know, come back to me and with your perspective then. Because you can't, although there are people trying to dilute it, a fact is a fact is a fact. If it happened, it happened.
Yeah. It's when the people in power dictate what happens, that's when it gets more of a following. And that's my point. If you can cut out the following or reduce and minimize and micro-size the following, that will start to have a bit more of an impact. But when you've got people who are doing
that is great. Yet there are people trying to tell me that's blue. So therefore, where do you stop? And then there are people who are in power saying, yes, that is blue. And they're agreeing with this person because they're scared that if they don't agree, then something might happen to their food chain.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. So well, we're calling it, let's call it for what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and so if anybody have not watched 13, have a look at it. And then,
I watched it.
See whether your opinion changes.
Yeah.
It's an eye opener.
It is. And there are so many documentaries, so many films, so many examples out there that depict life as it has been and life as it is now. But it also offers opportunity for life as it could be in the future if we just thought differently, if we just embrace. And without getting too, mumbo jumbo on people, what I'm talking about in psychobabble, I'm talking about humankind.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing new. I'm not saying this because it's my idea. My God, it's not my idea. But it's humankind. And I'm grateful that I had an education whereby I lived in Wembley. I was brought up with multicultural, Chinese, Asian, Greek, Black, white, and everything in between. It was amazing. And the more we do that, we learn to say, I don't know you, you don't know me. There's a great saying that says, don't judge someone's insides by their outsides. That's a seriously good point. I can't, but we do judge. We judge people. We're naturally judging people all the time.
But also never judge a man if you haven't walked in his shoes.
You got it. And therefore I will never know. And part of me feels bad that I will never know what it's like. Unless I had a camera on you. And that's what we're getting right now, aren't we? People are recording this stuff. and we're seeing firsthand.
And what's crazy about the whole thing, man, is, even with the camera, they tried to dispute what happened. Even with the camera, even with the different angles of the camera, they still try to dispute what happened. And this goes back to what I said before. This is great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
So, yeah, it is crazy.
Did you see?
Can I just say this, though? Can I just say this?
Go on.
I have been extremely fortunate to have been raised by 4 incredible people. When I say 4, I meant direct 4. My grandparents and my parents. Okay? But my world consists of all my neighbors and everybody respecting each other. And say, the neighbor who was down the street, who if I wasn't acting right, had permission to tear my behind up, because it was a community family thing. It wasn't just I'm in this house, I'm living alone. It was a community thing. It was my grandmother cooking pies and putting them on the windowsill so kids could come and take piece and take the whole pie and go. It was my grandfather getting up in the morning and butchering hogs at 5 o'clock in the morning and me helping, and him dividing the meat up and then giving the meat out. It's somebody coming to my grandfather's house and cleaning the front yard, and is somebody coming to my grandfather's house and help with all the horses and the cows and the pigs and everything, and my grandfather giving them things. It's somebody. It's about respect, and it's about caring, and it's about love. And I have no malice in my heart for anybody, but I'm not stupid, and I see right from wrong. But I have no malice in my heart for anybody, and even what's going on in the States now, I can't hate anybody. I hate
tough, man. That's tough. That is tough.
I hate what has happened.
Yeah.
I hate how people are doing things.
Yeah.
But I don't. It's hard, but I don't know. It's very difficult.
Events don't cause our feelings, but our beliefs cause our feelings. So again, you don't hate anybody, but you hate what's happening. You hate the fact that people feel it's okay to do this.
I hate what's happening, that because because of the color of somebody else's skin, you're being treated a totally different way. Not about the intellect.
Yeah.
Look at that gentleman who was in the park the other day.
Yeah.
And this guy's been a Marvel editor. He graduated from Harvard, and he's a very, very intelligent human being.
He was bird watching. He was bird watching.
So, and the things that she said just off the top of her head, it's just crazy, and people, people calling the cops for people who are trying to get in their house. It's just different. We just live in a different time.
You hear what he said. Now, again, I'm only going by what I've read in the news, so that could be true, could not be true. I'm taking it as I've read it. He said, now she got fired or suspended from her job because the company who employed her saw it and said, we're not having that. We've got to stamp that out. That's not what we do. And he said, I never wanted her to lose her job.
No, I
didn't want her to feel, I didn't want her any ill feeling towards her. I wanted her to think about what she said and how she acted.
Yep.
So yet again, he was looking to educate her to say, look, hey, I'm no threat to you. I'm asking you to live by and abide by the laws of this park, which as we coexist in this environment in New York, we abide by the laws of the park. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are, how you are, right? But you know what? It's not just, we can go on for hours, and we haven't got time to go and do this, but I recently spoke at an event about diversity and inclusion. And the main topic was the LGBTQ plus community. Not about color of skin or anything, it's about this. Now I'm talking about this and about embracing the fact that we're all people, we're all human beings, and whatever belief system you have, you do, you don't, you like, you don't like. And that's part of the problem. But it very soon, because like a Q&A session, got talking about gender difference, age difference, and color of skin difference as well. So diversity and inclusion is everything. And it's not about, I think it's more about including. Everyone should be inclusive because of the merit they bring to the table in a business perspective, you know? And I said this, and what I'm going to say now, I'm going to be very clear what I say now, because I said this on stage at this conference. I said, if we are looking, particularly with the male-female divide in the boardroom, there's a thing that's been known as male, stale, and pale, right? Boardrooms in this country are male, stale, and pale particularly. And what's happening now is we've got to have certain flavors of people around the room. And I use the word flavors to say we're all different flavors of people, okay? And I'm trying to be as open and as non-judgmental as I possibly can be. But we shouldn't say we've got one of that flavor, one of that flavor. Oh, okay, we're all safe. No. You get to the table because you're the right person to sit in that seat and take that organization forward from this perspective. Now, if you come from a different community, let's say the LGBTQ+, this is a community we want to tap into because I don't know much about it. Let's find out more about it. And this is why we should put people in positions around the table, not because there are certain able, disabled, age, color, gender, whatever. It's because they're the right people to help move this thing forward.
But you know, in some ways, companies don't know who's right to help because they haven't given people an opportunity. So if you don't give me an opportunity, it's very difficult for me to shine. It's very difficult for me to, you know, and this is why I love LeBron James.
Okay.
Because what that man is doing now with his school, what he's doing now with his voice for reason in the world, what he's doing now with all the people who he's coming in contact with and starting up his own companies and making sure that kids who are like him have a chance. Okay. You know, making sure that kids like him are developing the mental capacity to love themselves because they've got something behind them. They've got a good education behind them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I do.
You know, making sure that when they walk out in the street, that they see themselves as somebody and they don't see themselves less than somebody else, you know?
Or a label.
Or a label.
That's it.
Because regardless of who you are, you're going to be labeled. I don't care what you are, you're going to be labeled.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, in my situation, what I've done for myself is I've made sure that whatever environment I'm in, that I've studied enough about that environment to actually have a voice, that I'm saying something that means something. And if I'm in a situation that I don't know much about it, I shut up. Because my mom has always said to me, it's better to be thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and confirm it. You know?
Now, let me ask you a question. I love that. That's brilliant. It's great advice from your mother there, I tell you. Would you have the same view if you were white? So what I'm saying is that an ethic that you have because of who you are, or because you feel you have to because of the color of your skin?
I've never been white, so I have no idea. I've never had the white privilege, so I don't know. You know, white, and when I say white privilege is you can walk down the street and know that a cop is not going to really harass you if you're not, you know. I don't know that. I don't know that. That's reality. You know, if we're talking Canada, that's the reality of it. Yeah. That's the reality of the world. You know,
and, you
just
know,
because of the color of my skin.
Here's me, you know, thinking, geez, you know, why? Why in this day and age? Why? What are we not learning? What are we not embedding as better behaviors, as inclusive behaviors if everyone is inclusive? Now, I'm not saying everyone is equal because that's a whole different conversation about class system and poverty and this whole different thing, right? But seriously, in this day and age, we're still having these conversations about a difference of skin.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be.
Ignorant. I feel quite ignorant. I feel ignorant that I was hoping and thinking it wasn't as bad. And the more time I see in America, the more I think I'm just naive.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's and like I say, man, there are a lot of great people out there. Great people. But unfortunate, the way it stands now is that, you know, I was listening to this book last night. It's called The Servant Leader.
Yeah, good book.
And with the servant leader, as a leader, your job is to serve.
You better believe it.
Your job is to try to make sure that anybody who's below you understand their importance, because you don't know what they can bring to the table. And that is not the situation that we find ourselves in now.
We do leadership programs, and we say that same thing. A leader's job is to enable people and then get out of their way. Yep. It's the worst thing. If you're not enabling people, you're disabling people, aren't you? So you either enable people, get out of their way, and let them be great. But of course, different people in political power, a whole different conversation. But unfortunately, it's severely linked, isn't it?
But it's impossible to know everything as a one individual. It's impossible.
Yeah.
I can't know about this part of government. I can't know about this plant. I can't know about this. I can't know everything. So therefore, when I have people around me who know better, that is what I need. So, yeah, man. So it's we live in a different time now.
One more thing I want to touch base with you on, and this is quite a raw from my perspective. As someone of the skin tone that I have, if I say something that someone of the skin tone that you have might find offensive, could be completely innocent, nothing at all. But from my perspective, I am, as other people I know of the same skin tone as me, are nervous around people with a different skin tone in what they say.
You see what you just said just now?
Go on.
That is what you just said just now. That's the part of the problem.
Go on.
Exactly what you just phrased. Because what has happened is that the media has portrayed people of color in a certain way.
Yeah.
You don't look at a white person and you don't even come at them like you just came at me, do you? You understand what I mean? You don't, because when you look at somebody that's white, you automatically make assumptions. Well, you don't even assume, but you look at somebody of color, you make assumptions straight away subconsciously, even if you don't know that you do. And again, this is that thing. Yeah, this is that thing where I could never be in your shoes. You could never be in my shoes.
No. That's what I mean.
You could empathize and sympathize.
With Eastern Europeans coming over, I said to you before, I put a post on LinkedIn about 3 months before the European referendum. And it was someone asked me, because I said I seen a table on Facebook and it was comparing Remain and Brexit. It was favouring Brexit, but I was a bit ambivalent about what to vote for. And he said, I'm not on Facebook, put it on LinkedIn. So I did. And I got 5,500 comments. And the first one I got called me a racist and a xenophobe. So again, it doesn't matter about the colour of the skin, but I hear what you're saying. If I'm saying to someone who's Polish or Lithuanian or whatever, Romanian, suddenly I'm a xenophobe. Because again, I'm nervous about saying the wrong thing, because the worst thing I can ever think about is offending someone. Now, my view on offence is you're only offended if you own the offence. And you and I have known each other long enough to have a fairly open conversation about this kind of stuff. And we've worked together, we've played ball together and so on. So we know about each other. And I would never want to feel as if I am putting you as a person in any form of feeling ill, judged or whatever, because I see you as a human being who I have a lot of respect for and a lot in common with. But again, you are so right. You're not going to experience what I feel, and I'm not going to experience what you feel. And we can keep talking, we'll get a better understanding, but we're never going to be 100% certain.
But that is the problem right there, that people are not talking and getting an understanding. And if they are, then the problem is there's nothing coming from that. Because this has played out before. With all the young black men that died in America, this has played out before. You have it where it happens, and then somehow the media turned it on to the riots and stuff. They forgot about the person who's dead, but they turned it on to the riots and the looting and whatever else. So it loses focus.
Yeah.
The focus is that someone died. That's the focus.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Remain the focus. So, but that's the problem. That's the problem. So.
We could be here for a lot longer, but we don't want to keep people watching this for too long. But I feel this is something that we could perhaps go back to. And you know what? Let's go back to what we said earlier on. If people want to comment on this, they are free to comment. You know, this is an open, healthy, adult conversation between two people about a subject that's been going on for generations before we were on the planet. And it, unfortunately, will probably go on for longer than we're on the planet for. But I hope that what we talk about resonates with some people. And starts to get people thinking slightly differently and hopefully in a better way about how we behave around other people of whatever denomination or whatever color, creed, age, gender, or whatever we are. Because that's it.
I have mixed race kids,
yeah,
and they see it as the best part of two worlds. They've got both.
Yeah, cool. I can see that.
So they have a totally different perspective on how things are than say someone who was born years and years ago, you know, so it's totally different, you know, and the way they look at things and the way they interpret things are different. My daughter said something to me, and I can't remember exactly what she said. She said, you guys were the ones trying to get in the door, but now we are in the door, and it's us to try to help take what you've done and then make it better. You know, that's similar to what she said. And I was like, wow. Yeah, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we'll see.
We'll see. As ever, absolute pleasure talking to you. We could talk about this, but I'm sure we will for much longer. So enjoy the rest of your day, and let's see what happens.
Yes, sir.
Take care, man.